Hidden Object Guru here, joined by
the unabridged gamer.
Getting ready to talk some Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's right, we both played the test that they put out a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely a game. You can't deny that it's a game. I'm not going to pretend it's not a game.
It's also, I will say this, it is definitely a brave game because someone intentionally looked at, the door problem, which is like one of the most infamous issues in gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, getting doors to work right and building most of your game around them.
It is safe to say that 80% of the game's strategy is opening and closing doors.
And making sure that they stay locked too and synced across 7 players. That's
not easy.
Brave.
It is. It really, really is. Yeah, I mean, there were lockable doors in Gun Media's last attempt at this. This is made by the same people who made the Friday the 13th game. Did you play much of that?
I did not play it at all. I have a copy of it somehow, and I'm still not entirely sure how I ended up with the copy of it, but
Well, I often talk because I'm trying to get into, a little something called Dead by Daylight now, because Supermassive Games is making a game set in the Dead by Daylight world. So it kind of behooves me to get in and try and figure out what this thing is about.
They found a way to get you to play a multiplayer game.
You say that because I'm famous for never playing any multiplayer games. What a lot of people don't know about me is I've got fully 100 hours in Friday the 13th. Because while I'll never play a multiplayer game, there's literally nobody on Earth who loves Jason more than I do. So...
Well, his mom might.
Maybe, but borderline. It's borderline that his mom loves him more than I do. I'm the biggest Jason fan there is. Can't get enough Jason. Giant fan. Obviously, I played as Jason as much as I possibly could. If I had friends who were like, I've got to... I want to play this, I want to play this game, but we need a Jason because we got people. I'm like, oh no, I'll Jason for you. It's fine. I got party wipes.
You'll gladly murder all your friends.
I got party wipes 60, 70% of the time. This is the thing about the game. It was not, I think had it lasted, had the lawsuits not happened and gotten developed, the tricks I did would have been patched out. Famously, there was this thing where, so Jason's abilities, he just pops up wherever. That's always been Jason's thing, right? He always pops up wherever you least want him to be. And the way the game, I know you didn't play it, so I'll just quickly explain. The way the game manifested that was by having a system where Jason could, fast travel. And so you would literally just, you would go into first person, but you couldn't, you could also, he had 2 types of fast travel. One, you pick a place on the map, and you just are there, right? But of course, the map doesn't show you where the enemies are. Although I got so good at reading the maps and knowing basically when the game starts right away, you have 3 seconds of knowing where all the counselors are. And so based on the direction I was facing when I looked at that light and knowing how the game liked to handle starting positions, I could generally teleport to within 10 feet of an enemy right at the start of the game and immediately kill them. I was not a fun person to play against, is the point.
Yeah, you're like the person who had the jetpack and the cycler rifle in Battlefront 2015. You were just there to murder everyone.
It was brutal. And the other thing was you had the ability to fast travel by just zooming forward. So it would go first person and would move forward so quickly. Essentially, you're familiar with the camera through the woods from Evil Dead. You would be doing that. Mm-hmm. So the idea is you'd be moving so fast it would be hard to control. But if you got good at it, you could essentially, if someone was running away from you, you could switch on the fast travel mode. And if you were great at stopping it, stop immediately behind them and go straight from fast travel into grabbing somebody. Which is basically unfair, but I got real good at doing it. I'm very experienced with Gun Media's work is what I'm trying to say. So I was ready for what this game is. Yeah. I don't think this is, I think this is a very different game than Friday the 13th. It absolutely is. I don't know if it's as good a game as Friday the 13th was. They have time to develop this further. It's not coming out till August.
Well, that's one thing I do want to clarify is as many issues as I may have had with my time playing it. Like, I recognize this is a technical test. Like, we couldn't even customize our characters or anything.
Yeah, there were no perks available.
They really...
You couldn't level up. There were no perks available to test out. This is very much a raw version of the game.
Yeah, this is minimum viable product.
Absolutely.
And I recognize that. I understand that. So, like, some issues may just literally be like, yeah, it's on our to-do list. That's entirely possible. But there's some things that also just, it feels like if they aren't on the to-do list, I will be very concerned.
Okay.
Like, here's the first thing that I want to say. When it comes to the case of, like, Friday the 13th, did it have a map?
Yes.
Of any kind that you could consult.
Oh, you check the map whenever you want.
Where is the map in this game? Because the first match I'm doing, just like, I don't know this house. And I am running in circles in every building, trying to figure out where anything is.
Yep. It's bad. I can't offer a defense of this. No, okay. So I don't know how. So I played this 2 nights in a row, and I played a couple hours each night. And generally I ended up on the family side, not on the victim side. I don't know why. That's just how it
works. That happened a lot too. The matchmaking kept doing that to me too. Everyone seemed to be queued up for victim, and almost no one was the killers.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. I did the thing. Back to that.
I did the thing where I always play quick match because when I'm doing this kind of game, because I'm not passionate about it, I just want to like fill in holes for anyone who is not putting together, like who is not able to get a game going. So when I play Dead by Daylight, I always play whatever gives you the bonus experience because the bonus experience is what they need right now. So if they need survivors, I play as survivors. If they need a killer, I play as a killer. Just always. And so that's what I did here. I played quick match, they assign me to whoever, and I spent a weird amount of time playing as Leatherface.
Yeah, okay, so you were also getting stuck as Bubba because I wanted to play as the hitchhiker. I wanted to be able to plant traps.
Yeah, I know, right?
No one wants to play as Leatherface in this Texas Chainsaw game.
Massacre game. It's really weird. But the problem with Leatherface is he starts in the basement, and the way they've structured the game is, the basement is player friendly, and the house or the slaughterhouse, right, which of the 2 maps is killer friendly, right? And that is just the structure of the game. It is meant to be easier to escape the family in the basement and then harder to escape them upstairs. Like, that's just how they constructed it. And that's fine. But the problem is, like, it is impossible to find your way around the basement without a map. And for the victims, that doesn't matter so much because it's kind of fine if they get lost because their only job is to get as far away from the killers as possible. But like for the killers, playing as Leatherface, like 50% chance I have no idea how to get out of the basement. Because there's like 2 or 3 doors.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's this overlay function they have, but it's on a timer, which I don't understand why.
I turned off the overlay, and there was only like a slight chance that it was actually going to show me a door. It always shows you the other members of the family, and if there's a noise, it focuses on the noise and things like that. And if there's an objective, like a door has just been unlocked, it'll focus on the door has just been unlocked, but it's like, if I'm Bubba in the basement, I should be able to turn on the overlay and see where all the exits to the basement are. Like immediately, right?
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't do that. But as you said, I should have a map. My character, if you want the victims to not have a map, I'm a little iffy. Okay, yes, no, I get the point is that they're the victims and they don't know this place. I see the logic in that if they want to do that. Why on earth do the killers not have a map?
They should know their own house.
This is my thought, right? How do the villains not know their own house? How?
It's particularly bad because in my first match, we had victims who knew what they were doing. We didn't. So they're twerking at us. And for the record, I really want to emphasize this to the developers. Okay, we know that people trolling and being dicks is a thing that they like to do in multiplayer games.
Yep, that's just
this is a really easy thing to code.
Yeah.
If someone is outside of an exit, but they haven't triggered the escape yet, and they're friggin' teabagging outside, put them in a down state.
Yeah.
Let's finally punish someone for being a dick about being good at a game.
Have the
I really feel like this is
you're bouncing up and down?
fair thing.
Or you're bouncing up and down or spinning around in a circle? Oh, well, whoops, accidentally your character broke their ankle and fell over, and now the killer can just come and finish you off.
Yes, I feel like that's an incredibly fair thing.
Yeah, I think...
Because it's just...
Who on earth wouldn't approve of that change? Eight jerks who like to dunk on people.
Yeah, it's just because, like, the victim players seem to be experienced Dead by Daylight type of players, and they're just interested in being as obnoxious as possible from almost every match I played.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
The only exception to this was whenever I would have a victim actually being played by a woman, which was a surprisingly high portion of the player base. Surprisingly, it was like, oh, there's a lot of women playing this. That's neat. But yeah, whenever it was a dude, they were just, oh my gosh, they're just asking for someone to kick their ass because they just had to be as utterly dickish as humanly possible, and
that's unbelievably frustrating.
And the thing is, the killers would typically be nicer. Like the people whoever got stuck as the killers were usually, regardless of if you're the victim or not, they were often more courteous, more reasonable, more balanced. I feel like the killers in general, despite the fact it's ridiculous that they can't just instantly know where the hell they're supposed to go, how they have no markers or any kind of real clear visual indication of where they should go or anything like that. Yes, I know that if a sound trap gets bumped, that indicates to them, but
it ain't hard to keep.
The technical tests are avoiding those.
It's not hard to avoid a sound trap. A, you can cut all of them down. B, if you walk through them slowly, they don't make a sound. Which, hey, that's great. That's realistic, but I can count on one hand the amount of times I saw a sound trap trigger when a character wasn't already being chased.
Yeah, and usually when it was triggered, it was the killer, not the person being chased.
I mean by a victim. But yeah, like killers are more likely to trigger the sound traps. It's great. And
I know.
Hey, Grandpa's ability is completely useless.
Yeah, I never saw it work once.
I saw it work once. I saw it work a single time. And the crazy part is, it only worked for a quarter of a second because, okay, I like the idea. Like, conceptually, I understand the idea of, okay, well, what's going to happen is, you are going to, Grandpa's going to yell, and all of them will be highlighted. But, if you're still, right, if the victim is completely still, they don't get highlighted. Okay, I get the balance there. Do the developers not understand that by warning the victims every single time that Grandpa's going to use his power, that all the victims will just stop, and so no one will ever get spotted? Like, what should happen is the killers should not be warned. The killers obviously need to know. The victims should not be warned. They should be able to hear the Grandpa sound, and then they have to stop or not stop. But the thing is, they shouldn't be told in advance of when the sound is going to happen that the sound is going to happen. And if they stop moving, they should only, so let's say Grandpa highlights you for 5 seconds. It should take, when you stop moving, you should have I'm fine with the not moving, lets Grandpa not see you. But you got to give him a cooldown for moving. Because I saw someone get surprised by the Grandpa thing. And so the Grandpa thing started and their silhouette appeared. And then literally their silhouette was on screen for, I'm going to say, a quarter of a second before it disappeared, because the moment they realized they heard the sound, they just stopped. Well, there should be a cooldown on the movement. They should have to be still for a second and a half before it counts for that. The only thing giving the killers a chance in this is Grandpa's power, and it takes way too much blood to activate, and it's way too easy to avoid.
Yes.
The killer, the victims never even bothered disabling Grandpa because he has no use.
And it particularly stands out to me, weirdly enough, because of another game that I was asked to take a look at that basically solved this issue.
Really? What's this?
It's another one of the, Nexon. Yeah, Nexon keeps popping out all these free-to-play things. Their latest one is Veiled Experts, which is basically Rainbow Six by way of Overwatch in a lot of respects.
I haven't heard of this, but okay.
They have... Oh, I've been getting emails about it constantly. That's why I finally was like, okay, I'll take a look. Not an outstanding game in every respect. You have played a lot. It's very Rogue Company, but we tweaked this and that a little bit. But
I'm familiar with that kind of.
They have this one character. They have this one character who has a sensor grenade, bow and arrow, and there are sensor grenades that you can buy for really cheap that will reveal enemies.
Okay.
And this is actually very useful because a lot of the levels are vertical, and they actually took a bit from Battle Royale where the radius you can move shifts every now and then. It'll move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, changing where you can actually be. So, as a result, having that sensor is really useful. There is a dedicated operator who has a special ability you can instantly activate that will shield him from being scanned. And the scan radius itself is visible for both teams for each side scanning. So you can anticipate, and it is skill-based, but you have to intentionally choose to play as this one guy and sacrifice having another perk to be able to avoid detection.
Okay.
It's otherwise, for like a half second or so, and it basically solves this problem, where realistically, what if you just had one of the victims in this game be good at avoiding Grandpa's detection? They have a more generous window than everyone else. That would be, in my opinion, a bit fairer overall, especially since it seems like you can only have one of each character type in a match.
Yeah.
And they keep emphasizing, this was actually just in the news today, one of the guys behind it at Gun was like, look, we don't have the license to all the other Texas chainsaws. We only have the license to the very first one. So please stop asking us to add more characters from all of these things. So if you're working with a limited set, then maybe make it be one of the perks that you can unlock for the characters. Just make it be a skillful bonus or something.
And that you actually brought up something I wanted to talk about, which is obviously you can't have two of the same killer. That makes sense. But it's like, if you're forced into always using the same, if like the four, you always have to have the same four victims, it seems like. I mean, until they add more victims. I'm sure they're going to add more victims later. But for right now, they're all going to have separate upgrade trees, right? So it's like, so when I play a game of Dead by Daylight, if we all play Heather Mason, that's fine. But here, it seems like to get a game going, you're going to be forced into playing a victim that you don't necessarily want to play. You're not going to be able to choose which victim you play. So you're going to be constantly trying to decide which upgrade tree to invest points in. And I guess points you get as one guy don't carry over to other guys, I assume. And so it's like,
it'd be really nice if they did the Evil Dead thing where all the experience points could just be put wherever you want them to. But sadly, nobody else ever seems to do that.
Yeah, that would be nice. And that's a bit of which I'm going through with Dead by Daylight right now, where it's like, so only experience points I get as player X can be spent on, not the experience points, but it's like only items I pick up as one survivor can be used as another survivor. Cause like all the killers have exclusive items, right? I get that, but it's like all of the victims are just using the exact same medikits and flashlights and maps and toolboxes. So can I not just have a big bank of those for whatever character I'm playing as? No, you have to spend whenever you start a new survivor, you have to spend a hideous amount of blood points to start unlocking, just having a medikit. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
It bothers me a lot. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about Dead by Daylight, even though it's been on my mind, obviously. So yeah, I feel like concretely, there are some big issues, and I don't think the tutorial does a good job of explaining itself. Like,
oh my gosh, no, the tutorial was horrendous.
I didn't know
that
I didn't know the family could run the first time I played. Seriously.
I had to figure out how to even attack people.
Oh God, I know.
It's
bad.
It just, I understand that right now they don't have a dedicated playable tutorial, that usually working on a tutorial like that can happen later in development, but I'm talking just the simple basic act of a video tutorial even. It somehow both takes forever and didn't tell me nearly enough to actually be able to capably.
Yeah. No, it's amazing tutorial. That they could do this bad a job with a tutorial of all things. Yeah, it's weirdly inept. Like, so inept, it didn't really make sense.
Maybe it's just because it's placeholder, but yeah. Oh.
Yeah, no, they really do need a playable tutorial with some bots to try out. Again, I think Dead by Daylight, again, I'm not trying to just talk about Dead by Daylight, but it's relevant. Because, that's who's players they're trying to steal with this game. Make no mistake. That's why they literally had
Leatherface DLC in Dead by Daylight before now.
Which, because, there's plenty of people who own the rights to Leatherface, apparently. Yeah, because you can still buy Leatherface DLC, which is kind of weird. You can still buy Leatherface DLC for Dead by Daylight, even though he's getting his own game. That's a little strange. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is, when I'm playing it, I'm like, I didn't even know I could run. And there's so many things that it's like, it's so awkward playing as Bubba, but having played a little Dead by Daylight, I realized that as you level him up and get perks, Leatherface is going to stop being useless. But right now, he's completely useless. Like, he's not, like, he's kind of slow and lumbering, and the chainsaw doesn't do much damage. Right? And like, the one good thing you have is the chainsaw overcharge, where if you overcharge it enough, you can get the famous, Leatherface sprint going, which is great if the Leatherface sprint didn't only last 3 seconds before it immediately collapsed.
I couldn't even get him to do the charge, honestly. Do you know what you can rev your chainsaw with?
For in the future, if you try, if you rev the chainsaw for too long, once it gets to 80% of the way to overheating, he lifts the chainsaw over his head and you can sprint super fast for 2.5 seconds. It's totally useless because you haven't got the perks to make that go longer, but it will be a useful ability with a leveled up chainsaw and a leveled up Leatherface. But sorry, the thing you were going to point out.
No, it's just, the thing I killed most as Leatherface was barriers.
Oh, yeah.
Because for some reason, and this is one of the other things that just like narratively makes no sense to me. Mm-hmm. They just apparently at the killer family, they're like, well, gee, we should put a bunch of random barricades that we ourselves cannot navigate.
I know.
We'll just have Bubba cut them open whenever we need to. It's just like
inspired by this thing from the first movie where there was a barbed wire shrine upstairs in the house, right? And so it's part of whatever their weird cannibal religion is. Excuse me. Having a barbed wire shrine is part of it. And so they're like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make it that they've scattered barbed wire shrines all around their property. And the victims can sneak through the barbed wire shrine, but they can't. I know. It's stupid. It's really stupid.
The only thing that I contribute as Bubba that could even be vaguely considered useful. And I'm just thinking, this is the least beneficial thing anyone trying to be a successful serial killer family would have.
I know. Like, they got no traps, unless, the hitchhiker sets them. And they've got no traps in the house. They've got things that they can't walk through all over the place. Like, at least the hitchhiker can move through narrow holes. The cook, obviously Leatherface can't, but the cook can't do that either. Now, there are 2 more family members in the finished game, right? So I'm sure all of the various family members, except for Leatherface and Cook, are going to be able to move through. But it's still really weird how, like, the house is so full of places they can't go. And how Leatherface's
You
main
remind
ability
me.
is just lowering mobility.
There's something else. I can't believe I'm going to be giving this as an example because most people probably haven't even played this one, but still, seriously, it's sincerely, they could learn from this game. You remember how Tomb Raider 2013 had competitive multiplayer?
I do. Nobody ever played it.
Yeah, I
Except for
actually
you.
did.
Except for you,
And,
obviously.
And Achievement Hunters. That's pretty much
course.
it. But there was a brief window when it was on PS Plus, so there were actually people playing it, so I tried it out.
Nice.
That game had better incorporated traps.
Really?
Like, you could set all of these Tomb Raider death traps, and there were, like, dynamic levolution events, like in Battlefield 3, in this random throwaway multiplayer mode that no one gave the time of day to. It made me very sad because they actually really did put some effort into it. And also, it's just like, it was closer to what I was expecting from this game than what I actually got. Whereas it's like, nope, I just gotta latch a bunch of doors.
Wow.
Over and over and over again.
And like, you can't have a trap on the other side of the door or anything. Heaven forfend. Well, oh no, but you can trap the lamps. What? Oh yeah, no, if you're the victims, you can set a trap on the lamp, so if the killers try to turn on a lamp, they'll get electrocuted and, they'll be stunned for 10 seconds. I'm like, do you think a killer's ever going to turn on a lamp? Like, what are you talking about?
I actually only just randomly found, I can turn off lights? It's like, okay, but isn't that beneficial to literally anyone other than me?
Yeah, it's not great.
It just was such a weird thing.
Yeah. Although I will say one thing that I found really cool, though, and I will say one thing that I found really cool that I managed to trap people a couple of times as the hitchhiker was I would put a trap directly inside the door of a building from the outside. So that because when you walk in from the outside, they do this thing where your eyes have to adjust.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, they literally can't see. Like, the victims literally can't see the traps. So that's a nice realistic touch that I thought was a good element.
Oh yeah, no, that's the hitchhiker feels like the character they figured out first or whatever, because in general,
I don't know what the cook is
the most
for.
capable person.
I literally don't know what the cook is for. Like, oh well, he can add an extra padlock to doors 3 times. That takes them that much longer to pick the lock. To which I respond, and sorry for saying this, but bitch, do you know how many doors there are in this game? There's 80 doors in this game. What am I going to do with 3 padlocks?
Not only that, I just want to point out here, these doors, like I was saying, it's risky to build your game around this many doors, because, yeah, they glitched a ton for me.
Oh, God, yeah.
They'd be like, close. No, close. No, actually close. Please close.
Could you close,
Please close. I have things to do. Please close.
Oh, my God, trying to deal with those doors. And the fact that, like, I'm standing inside this building and pressing close. I don't want to be pushed outside by the door. If I was standing outside, if I wanted to be outside when this door closed, I would be standing outside the building. No one standing inside the building and pressing door close wants to then be outside the building. How do you not understand this game? Yeah, that really bothered me.
Why you don't do this. It's just asking for trouble.
Yeah. No, it is legit crazy how badly that part
misery.
No. I agree with you 100% on that front. They completely botched the doors. All right, so can I say this about the game? I think it looks great.
Oh, it looks good. Great. Yeah, definitely.
I think the levels are. I will say when they give me a map, I will say the levels are well designed. But it's like one time I'm playing as a victim, right? And I find this valve I can use to attach to the tank to open up the pressure door. And it's like, okay, but where's the tank and where's the pressure door? Because this place is a frigging maze. Oh, well, no, we highlighted the tank on your vision for 5 seconds. Like, the answer is it's somewhere in the basement. You can't walk linearly in the basement. You can't, like, expect that, oh, well, it's in front of me. The amount of twists and turns I'm going to have to take when walking around the basement to get to what was briefly in front of me render that information completely useless. And I mean, okay, maybe the survivors, and it's possible that it did such a bad job of explaining this, that if I use the survivors' heightened senses, it would have lighted up the pressure tank for me again. Maybe it would have. But again, put a map, give me a map, right? But here's what you do for the killers, right? For the killers, you make it so the map appears, like the map has everything on it because they're the killers and it's their house. But for the victims, the map gets generated as they move through the map.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do. And so, they saw the tank. Now on the map, they'll always know where the tank was. But if you just found the thing, you won't. And if you walk by the fuse box, well, now you always know where the fuse box is. But it's not there on the map to start with. There, I've solved the problem. On this.
Go. Because this would also solve the main issue I had whenever actually playing as a survivor is nobody would communicate. Like the killers, everyone always was talking to one another and communicating and making sure we actually knew where things were. Victims? Nah, you're on your own. Everybody's just running around doing whatever they want. Unless they're in a Discord call with you, they could care less about what happens to you.
Yep. Now, again, I appreciate how in Dead by Daylight, to avoid harassment, they've just made it so there's no chat in the game, which very smart. But Dead by Daylight, the objectives are so simple, right? And the objectives that you have to accomplish are so simple, and all of the on-screen indicators for what's going on are so clear that it's always easy to cooperate with your other players. Whereas here, there's so much to do that it's impossible to coordinate without chatting.
To do it.
Exactly. It's too convoluted, and it's impossible to coordinate. It's a problem.
Yeah.
And the weird part is, adding a map, right, would help that a lot as well, because you know what you could do? You could have a feature where you mark on the map the thing you're trying to accomplish. Right? So how about this?
Oh, some kind.
How
some
about
pinging
this, right?
system of some kind.
Here's something fun. Some kind of pinging system, right? On the map or without. And then you let the killers have a perk that if they're within 10 meters of you when you ping something, they find out the location of the person pinging and the person doing the pinging. Because it would be a way of saying, well, okay, in the world, this person just yelled out that they need some kind of help. And it would mark them and of course, that's super useful for the various players, but you would only know, the killer would have a brief window of knowing where the victim was, but the victim would not know, not immediately know where the killer is. But you could make it less powerful for the killer by not telling the killer which ping was given. So it's like the person would be saying, I need to know where here's where the fuse box is, or I need to know where the fuse box is. And the killer wouldn't know that they found the fuse, but they would have some idea where the person was. Cause if you let the killer know which ping was just given, the killer would just know, oh, well, I've got to run and guard the fuse box. But now you just know that a ping has been given. So you have useful information you can action on both sides.
Oh yeah.
I think that would work great.
Because really, with this kind of game, it's all about information above all else. It's not about, is something scurry or not. It's like, no, it's purely a game of, does which team knows more about the other team to outwit them?
Oh, absolutely.
And the game constantly loses sight of that, which is a shame.
It's just too convoluted. Yeah, and I'm like, but I mean, I will say that it is the worst trying to play with people who don't know how to be the family. Because I don't know if you noticed this. Because if you don't know that you're supposed, how to be the family, players can escape within literally 1 minute on the house map. Because the house map, the exit starts open. If you don't turn on the generator to turn on the electrical, floor between you and the road, right at the start of the map, anybody can just flee out the road. So just find a lockpick, get out of the basement, jump through the front window, flee out the road. And if the family doesn't know that the first thing they have to do is start the generator, yeah, anybody can just escape, or everybody can just escape. It's very frustrating. Yeah, but I'm sure that part is going to get cleaned up as more people learn how to play the game. Like, a lot of that is going to be fixed as more people learn how to play the game. But yeah, like, if you don't know how to play as the family, it can be very frustrating very fast. So it's like, I feel like the family 100% needs a map. And I think if the victims got a map that gradually gets built, I think it would solve a lot of these problems, because it would keep the mystery and it would make it so you can't learn the map, because the map's randomized. Where these various things are randomized every time. So like learning the map wouldn't help the victims, but they would be able to gradually learn what the map looked like as they play, which I think is a really nice touch. So yeah, I think there are fixes that are going to make this playable. But I don't think the game is anywhere near there yet. I think they need the 3 months to tweak this.
Yeah, it's like, and that's the thing, is like, I don't want to fully condemn it, because I love that we're seeing all of these really creative horror games, not just
totally
following any specific mold. We've got single player ones, we've got multiplayer ones, and they're willing to try things.
It's a great time to be a horror game fan. I'm not pretending it's not.
It's very messy in this one. It just, and the thing that also worries me is, because it's multiplayer and because they're already saying, well, we don't really have the rights to all sorts of things. It's like, okay, then what is the long-term game plan here?
I know. Like, are you going to try and track down the rights to part 2 and Leatherface and the next generation? Like, because I'm like, are there going to be different, Leatherface costumes from the different movies? And the answer is no, we don't have the rights to any of that. And like, so for the serial killer, they can't make the serial killer guy who isn't in the game yet, they can't make him too close to Tex, and that he's clearly inspired by Tex, Viggo Mortensen in part 3, but they can't make him too close or they'll get sued. And they can't have Matthew McConaughey leg brace guy, right? Because even though people will want to see him, if you do, they don't have the rights to him. So it's like, come on, guys. And like, I know after the Jason fiasco, they had to lock down rights and be very careful. I get that, but you're also kind of crippling your game's longevity. So I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, would you like to know why I'm not going to buy this game?
Oh dear, there's gonna be some kind of nonsense with pre-order bonus.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's them. No, nothing like that. Don't worry. No, it's the developers pissing me off.
Oh dear.
Yeah, the developers did something to piss me off. And now I'm just going to say what it is.
That's not good.
And if, it's in the game, so you might have noticed it. Like, it's something that's in the game, so there's a chance you noticed it, and maybe you just didn't, tweak on it. So at the start of every match, we see the lady we hear a news broadcast and we see the lady get put on a hook, the one you're there to find, and then gutted with the chainsaw, right? That's how every match
I care
starts.
less for that part as well. It's just great. Like, I don't need to see that every start.
Well, here's the thing, and I mean, I'll talk about this in a second, because it's the other reason I have misgivings about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Did you happen to notice what they say about that character, the missing college student who her friends are looking for?
I did not actually hear it, no, because people would typically talk over it in voice chat.
And I'm sure a lot of people missed it, because I haven't seen this show up in a lot of press either. I'm sure people will notice and mention this. I'm hate that I have to put this in your head, but, we're talking about it, and so now I got to put this in your head. I don't like that it's in my head. As the thing starts, they mention that this girl is missing. And they point out that she's a native of Uvalde, Texas. Every match.
Dear.
So you see why that kind of pissed me off?
That... Oh dear.
Why would they do that? What the hell are the people at Gun Media thinking that they all want to start every match referencing Uvalde, Texas.
Oh my word!
I have stunned you into silence, haven't I? Yeah, it's shocking to hear, isn't it?
It's particularly bad because their development name is literally Gun
Media. Yeah. So you see why I'm kind of pissed at the developers and won't be buying this game. If people want to send me a review copy, I'm not saying I won't cover it. I'm not paying money for this.
Wow, that could not have. Oh my word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, read the friggin' room.
Yeah,
I completely would miss that because people were just always talking. But
I think that's endemic to the experience because I haven't seen anybody mentioning this.
And I want to also point out here that like they're making this in Unreal, right? I'm remembering correctly. They're making this in Unreal. Yeah. Okay, I have worked with audio assets in Unreal now. It's not that hard to edit an audio file to make it not have that. You open it on Audacity, you just snip out the name of the Uvalde part.
Oh no, they can cut this with no trouble.
That's all you have to do.
Though this is, and again, I might be willing to come back if they cut this. Okay, that's fine. I'm willing to give them the chance to fix their error. But what the hell are they doing? Like, what are you trying to say right now? And if you're not saying anything, like if you're not making some kind of a horrific political statement that you want to minimize the tragedy, if you're literally just exploiting a real life tragedy, I'm still not buying it. But if you want to say that we get to, that like, if you're celebrating the death of children, because spoiler alert, it's a game about killing children.
Yeah, they're all teenagers.
Or 20, right? But I mean, come on. They all look young, and the whole point of the original movie is that all of these young people are being murdered. So to then reference a real-life massacre of school children, you point out that they're all college students. So they're all students getting killed, and you go out of your way to include a reference to the real-life massacre of school children in this. And it's like, it's no different than saying a native of Columbine, hails from Columbine, Colorado. We would know what that meant. And I'm just trying to say, do you just want to make people feel uncomfortable? Maybe you just want to make people uncomfortable. Maybe it doesn't have any political meaning beyond that. Maybe you're not the worst people in the world, right? But it shouldn't be in there. And this is a bigger issue with Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a franchise, okay?
Yeah, because like the last film also had so many like issues. From everything I heard about it, was just like it felt like it was just made in the most mean-spirited way possible, which is saying something for a series.
But this is what I'm saying.
You can go for it. Okay.
There is only one Texas Chainsaw Massacre that isn't horrifically mean-spirited. And that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is just weird. It's got some mean-spirited parts, but it is Toby Hooper tried to over the top it so much that it became a comedy. That's what he was going for. And they wouldn't let him over the top it so much that it became a comedy. So they tried to re-edit it into being a horror film. And it is a very schizophrenic film that doesn't really know what it is. And it's not a good film, but it's the only one of them that isn't insanely mean-spirited. By comparison, Nightmare on Elm Street movies are just fun. Yes, they're brutal, and yes, they're violent, but we all know what we're doing, and we're here to have a good time. We are not here to wallow in human misery. We are not here to luxuriate in drawn-out, unpleasant deaths. That's never been what Jason was about. And that's why you can just have a good time playing the Friday the 13th game. Yes, it's depicting brutal murders, but it is depicting brutal murders in a context of, we all know why we're here and we're all having a good time. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has never been about that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is hardcore, unpleasant, make you feel awful the rest of the day kind of horror, right? And my question is, why would you make a video game out of that?
And it's actually funny you mentioned that because that brings to mind another failed attempt at bringing, a more torture porny kind of thing when they tried to make Saw games. And ironically, in the Saw games, to succeed, you have to make sure none of the victims die, which, I mean...
Yeah.
Yes, you can make sure that nobody dies, but also doesn't that kind of run counter to sort of what that franchise is sort of about? Instead, it just sort of becomes... It's like the world's most M-rated WarioWare game.
It really is. But the weird part is, this is where I'm going to defend the Saw games a little, because they're putting you in the role of one of his victims. They're putting you in the role of one of his victims, and like they're trying to give you the experience of what it's like being caught in his traps. Because, I mean, escape rooms existed before the Saw movies, but I think it's undeniable that the success of the Saw movies are why escape rooms became a cultural phenomenon.
Oh, definitely.
Like, people want the experience of escaping from a Saw trap. And there are plenty of Saw-themed escape rooms, right? Like, it was a phenomenon that existed, especially in Japan, but the Saw movies are what made escape rooms a thing. And to do that in a video game, I completely get. And this is what I'm getting at with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you were going to make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game, why isn't it an Outlast-style game? That's where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre brand belongs. An Outlast-style, brutal escape of the nightmare survival horror type of milieu. That is what Texas Chainsaw Massacre belongs in. Because that kind of brutal, grueling horror is what people come to Outlast for. Why are you putting that kind of brutal, make you unhappy, I have trouble watching this horror in a game that people are supposed to play over and over and over again at length?
They're friends.
You see what I'm saying, right?
Oh, I do see what you're saying, and you're also very accurately highlighting why I absolutely hate Outlast, just in general as a thing. Coincidentally, Kotaku was running a piece the other day where they're like, this Outlast Trials thing is really crude and crass, and I don't want to know what this psycho killer nun lady is doing on this thing, and it's like, yeah, Outlast has always been this tasteless.
That's what Outlast
Thanks for catching on.
Have you not been
familiar
familiar
with
with
this
this
worst
franchise?
things?
Like the second one is like, oh hey, we're gonna do Jonestown, but we're gonna really focus on sexual assault, and that's gonna be the game. What?
And also, I just want to also point out here, Outlast 2 may be the only horror game about religious horror where they basically try to condemn both conservatives and queer people at the same time.
Like we gotta make sure everyone gets the blame for what these awful people are doing. You don't, though. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, no, Outlast 2 is a complete... I mean, I understand why it killed the franchise. Why they had to do a multiplayer game afterwards. But it's like... But you see what I'm saying? That Texas Chainsaw Massacre naturally belongs in that kind of, I mean, hell, like, how the first half of Resident Evil 7 is just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Explicitly.
And ironically, that's with characters who, the more you learn about them, the more you feel bad for them.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't understand how someone looked, and I mean, I know the real answer is, we had done a lot of work on developing Friday the 13th, and we wanted to just plug that into another game. But we needed the game to be something that was buzzy and that we could sell. And so we went after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre rights. Like, I understand how this game happened. I'm just saying a game that you're supposed to play over and over again at length shouldn't be this off-putting.
Plus, I want to point out here, actually, it's particularly hilarious how they've been struggling all this time to get this out the door, because there's another game that basically does what they did. Even the whole Jason teleporting around thing. Yeah. For years now, called Last Year.
Yeah, Last Year.
It recently got a relaunch. They got new developers. They're finally relaunching it and getting it back into existence. It's actually come back from the grave. And
I'm
yeah,
guessing
it is
fun to play.
from what I understand, yes, they basically removed all of the nonsense that had people frustrated.
Well, and the thing is, right? Like, it's not just, but I don't just mean mechanically, right? The thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre is they've done such a good job of recreating the aesthetic of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that they've created a game that's genuinely unpleasant to play. That you feel
when I actually got my first
looking
kill,
at this world.
I was playing this on my laptop. When I actually finally got my first kill as Bubba, I just folded it down a bit to be like, okay, let me know when it's done.
I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm not deriving any joy from people being killed here. Like, there's so many games we have where it is comical. It's John Wick levels of absurd,
over
where
the top. Again,
this isn't real.
Friday the 13th game. Like, the kills are all so elaborate and over the top that you can have a good time because it's clearly cartoony violence. Whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about making the violence as prolonged and unpleasant and painful as possible.
A chainsaw is not a quick killing weapon.
No, it's not. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with this. Well, I guess I do. They might just, I mean, I have described the thought process that I have no doubt resulted in this game. But I don't understand why they thought it was a good idea. And I mean, you know what pisses me off the most? That we're going to have to put up with like 6 months of, calling us woke libs for complaining about the violence in this game. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's just fantasy. What do you care? Because it matters how violence is presented. It does matter how violence is presented.
We both frigging love horror games. I play Dead Space to frigging relax.
I play nothing but horror games. Again, if you had made a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you had made Outlast Texas Chainsaw Massacre Edition, I would be applauding you. Like, so you remember, I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, like how when they made Yakuza Fist of the North Star, right? I said that there has never been a better developer property combination than those two things. And that's what I would be saying about Red Barrels making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. That it's like, yes, you guys obviously are the perfect people to be making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Your aesthetic, your worldview, your general unpleasantness. You guys get Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm sure you would have made a perfect Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that was unbelievably unpleasant to endure, and there would have been an audience for that. But these developers, it's the wrong genre, right? It's the wrong genre for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's the wrong people making it.
Can I throw out to you I genuinely think I have an idea about how...
I'm sorry that I'm getting this mad.
No, it's fine. I completely understand where you're coming from. Again, I'm the guy who can't stand Outlast to begin with, so I very much get it.
Yeah.
But no, I can propose to you a very, very clear idea of how you could take this exact same gameplay loop of you have 3 stalkers and you have 4 survivors trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
What IP would be so easy to translate this to? And currently, he's actually going through a gaming renaissance where everything released for this IP in gaming just keeps being good.
Go, what is it?
Why is this not an Alien game?
That's a really good point.
Because Aliens Fireteam Elite, they may have dropped the ball on post-launch support, but at launch it was very impressive.
Why isn't this an Alien game?
Is basically
not about the Marines, not about why is this not a game about either explorers who've reached the place planets or just like civilians on LV-426 trying to escape?
Or if you really, if we gotta make Ridley Scott happy, fine. We can have it involve engineers or whatever too, and they're proto-aliens. Whatever. That means more enemies to potentially come up against.
Yeah.
But just in general, we have so many xenomorph variant types that could be used, and it just I mean, we are seeing truly ambitious ideas because the new one, Dark Descent, that's coming
That
up.
looks incredible.
It's war mongrels with permadeath a la XCOM in the alien setting. That's incredible. I can't imagine 10 years ago that getting greenlit, and now it's a thing with marketing and everything.
Now we're going to be playing it in a month. It's insane. I know. Like, it's such an an unbelievably ambitious premise that is perfectly suited to the IP, and it actually happened. So yeah, no, this should have been an Alien game. Yeah. That would have been fantastic.
It would work so
There would have been like 3 different types of aliens that you could work together, and you could create traps, and you could cocoon people, and then they would have to be like a facehugger would have to get to them for the cocoon to stick, but other people could free them if they had the chance to. Like, yeah, that would be.
I'll go one more. I'll do you one better. What if you could still actually have the thing inside you, and you could temporarily still help
you would have
instead
to.
of the usual? It's like instead of the usual spectator mode where you got caught.
And there would be a time limit on how long you could keep helping people. And you'd be doing basically a suicide run thing where the aliens wouldn't be allowed to kill you now because you had an egg in you. So you could actually go and try and do the dangerous objectives to help everybody else escape, even though you were not allowed to escape.
I want to play this game so much.
Oh my God. We just accidentally pitched a 100 times better version of the game we just played. But you're right, that would be fantastic. Oh my God. Imagine had we be talking about it.
Yeah. It would.
Yeah, because the aliens would have a goal, and then like after the escape thing had been opened, then the aliens would be allowed to kill you instead of just having to cocoon you. Because the aliens, just like in Dead by Daylight, you can't just kill people, you have to try and hook them. Here, the aliens are only doing this to make more aliens, so they're not allowed to just kill you. They have to try and grab you and drag you back and hook you. In this case, hook be the cocoon. And only after the exit has been opened and you have the chance of getting away are the aliens finally allowed to kill you. Mm-hmm. That would be really interesting. Oh my God.
Yeah, it would actually do unique things that you haven't seen before, and it wouldn't make you feel gross watching things happen.
Yeah. Oh, Gun Media. You goofed, bro. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like you could do one set on a spaceship. You could do one set in an ancient temple people are exploring. Yeah. You could do one on LV-426 and you're playing as like colonists who are being attacked by, like, there's so many different environments you could do this in.
You could imagine doing an Alien Isolation DLC. You could,
on the Sevastopol.
You could even like reference friggin' 3 and Resurrection if you wanted to. There are so many different environments with distinct color ranges and everything, while still being able to reuse a fair number of the assets.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Like, you could sell 3 DLC. Like you said, you could sell Resurrection DLC. You could sell Prometheus DLC, as horrible as that might be. Oh my God, this thing sells itself, doesn't it?
It really does, and it's why I'm just wondering, again, it's like, why did we go to all of these lengths for something else that just...
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that I understand that Texas Chainsaw has an appeal, and it's kind of back for some people to a certain extent, but not a lot of people loved the new movie, as far as I've been told, and...
I'm going to go to let's not forget they're only able to get the rights, because it's not like people were, jumping off their chairs to make new Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a very
I gotta say,
easy to buy IP right now.
I suspect that, like, it will go down as history as, like, the biggest mistake that Red Barrels ever made was not trying to get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre IP after Outlast 2.
I mean,
they should have.
For crying out loud, I actually think that at this point, I think even like the Killer Clowns from Outer Space game might be faring better.
Oh my God! It wouldn't shock me. That was a fun teaser. That was a really fun teaser.
It was a very absurd thing. It's just like, you know what? Yeah, whatever. I can see Let's Players doing so much of this.
Oh yeah. And it's like, I can't see Let's Players getting into this. It's too unpleasant. It limits its market too much. Let's Players could do the Outlast version because they get to jump and scared and react to the disgust. But this game, you're supposed to watch something horrific happen and then have no recovery time and then just get right back to killing. Like, that's not what this should be. All right, so now that was our 20 minutes about how this game shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it's like, when I came into this, I had, my frustrations, but the longer we've thought about it, the worse it just gets. That's the most surreal thing is just like, the further I analyze the game, it's like, well, at first it seemed okay, but it's just like, the more I think, the more it goes, it just rots. It rots on the tongue.
You wanna start a video game company and just go pitch, the survival escape game set in the alien universe to whoever owns the rights to that?
I don't think that I don't know if I'm quite there yet with my studying. Okay. But please, someone make it at least.
I'm just saying, it's like I got a nice credit working in narrative design. You're out there making video games. Yeah, maybe we can sell us. That's all I'm saying. Oh God!
All in due time.
All in due time. Who made Fireteam?
That was Cold Iron. Who?
Oh.
I really that genuinely, it's like if you can get it on sale, absolutely, you will have a lot of fun. The main issue is that they pitched, we're going to have 4 seasons of content guaranteed. It's why I actually bought it at launch. Because it's like, okay, I am guaranteed to get this much content that is supposed to have new modes, new experiences, and continue the story. And then the first season comes out and it's a character class that nobody used. And the second season came out and it's another horde mode. And then the insane thing is they started leading into that and they're like, and here's a new horde mode. It's like, we have 3 horde modes now. We want to know where the story is going.
Jesus.
And the thing that's really sad is they have a great tie-in book. I reviewed it and it's called Aliens Infiltrator. I highly recommend reading it. It's a fantastic look at what goes on in Weyland-Yutani before it all goes to hell. It's really well done. Nice. And the one story DLC they released doesn't relate to anything that happened there. Instead, it's related more to Prometheus than anything else.
Oh.
I don't know what happened.
Wasting everybody's time.
I don't know if there was like a budget limit or what. But yeah, sorry, rambling.
No, you're right. You're right to object. You are 100% right to object. Oh, Prometheus. Oh, Alien Covenant. Jesus. All right. We're going to wrap it up here with us. And now I have to name this video why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game shouldn't exist. Right? Like, that's what I have to name this video. I don't have any choice. That's just what we're going with. So just FYI, that's what's happening.
Sorry, Gun Media.
You shouldn't have done it, Gun Media. Like, respect, but you shouldn't have done it.
Didn't mean to shoot you down.
We had to, though. We just had to. All right, so, but is there anything you want to point people to? I noticed you just had a video come out yesterday.
Yes. If you want to hear more disappointment, I played Jedi Survivor so that you don't have to. It's very mid. For those wondering, it's very, very mid.
Deeply mid. Okay. Deeply.
You get Ray Romano with a jetpack. So there's that.
What?
There's a guy who basically looks exactly like Ray Romano, who is otherwise basically Jango Fett.
Okay.
It's so weird.
I was not expecting that. Wow.
Neither was I.
Okay. Oh, God. All right. So, and for me, I mean, you're on my channel. Click to something else on the channel. It's not hard to find. Obviously, there's going to be a link to that video in the, I'm going to put @unabridgedgamer now that you can use ats on YouTube for whatever reason. Oh, right. Because Twitter doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty good reason now that I say it out loud. But anyway, I'll get you, I'll put that and I'll put the link to that video so you can just check in the comment section below this video. So we'll see you back here soon. Check out My Game Dracula Defense in addition to all that stuff. And I'll see you back here for more. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.